Welcome, this is Super Sharpshooter coming at you from Sparkle City Studios, and today I'm going to show you how to paint up some stone walls. So we're going to be turning this into this. Some beautifully painted up stone walls. Let's get started. A lot of people, when they paint their stone walls, they will just literally paint the wall dark grey. Then on top of that, they will just put down a light grey dry brush. Boom, done. And sure, that looks okay and you can get away with it. But I'm going to show you how to take that a lot further. We're going to add layers. We're going to add textures. We're going to add scatter here on the bases. We're going to add bushes. We're going to add little skulls. Everything just to sell it, to make it look more realistic. So I'm going to show you how to do all of that. Let's get started. So what have we done so far? Stone walls here have been primed black, and despite what it looks like on camera, the actual bases here have been primed a light grey. So first thing I'm going to do is give the stone walls a base coat of a dark grey colour, and I'm going to be using Vallejo model colour dark grey. So I'm going to be using lots of different colours and washes. So first of all, if you don't have the exact colour and wash I'm using, don't panic, don't rush out, spend money, buy that. Use whatever you have that is similar to what I'm using. Let's go. Right. So all I'm going to do is just literally put a base coat down, dark grey, over all the stones. Dark grey. Next thing is, a lot of people, when they're taking this first step, they'll try not to get their base coat into the recesses. Let's get nice and zoomed in here. They'll try and keep the paint out of the recesses so that the black primer is showing through. Now you can do it that way, but I feel you get a much better effect later on with the washes. We're going to use washes to add that depth back in at a later stage. So really get that grey into all the recesses, over all the stones. Don't have to be careful about this in the slightest. So now we're just going to fast forward this video while I do this next step. The stone walls have had a nice base coat of dark grey, and the next step will be, we're now going to begin to paint the bases, and I'm going to use Vallejo model colour burnt umber, and this will give me a lovely sort of chocolatey brown muddy base, and after I put a wash on that, it will give me a very dark chocolatey, rich, muddy colour look. So let's get that painted up. Really not too much to this step. Just get the paint down on the bases. That's it. Don't have to be too careful. Just put some paint down like so. There we go. Nice and quick and easy. I'll get the other side painted up, give it a couple more layers and come back at you with the next step. So the next step will be to give the base and the stone wall a wash of dark grey. Now I'll be using Vallejo Model Wash. Now I know I said earlier that if you haven't got the exact colours and washes that I'm using, don't worry, just use what you have. But this wash, I thoroughly recommend that you get this wash. This wash is absolutely fantastic and it's one of my favorite washes, and I use it in so much of the miniatures, the terrain that I paint. So let's put some paint down, or wash in this case. So we're just going to put this wash all over the bricks, like so, just really get it in there. Simple, quick, easy, no more than that. Then we're going to get it on the base. Now on the base you want to be careful because you don't want it to pool too much on the base, because that's it. Get it on the base there. Just going to wipe a little bit off there because, as I said, you don't want it to pool on the base because it will turn the mud color black, and that's not the effect you want. So if it starts to pool, just wipe it off. I'll get that done and come back at you with the next step. Right, what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be picking out individual stones in these 4 different colors here. And the reason we're going to be doing that is because if you see stone walls out in nature, it's very rare that they are one uniform color. So to add to the realism, we're going to pick out, I would say, about 50% of these in these 4 colors. So let's quickly go through them. We have Army Painter Dungeon Grey, any light grey will do. Vallejo Game Color, sorry. Cayman Green. Vallejo Model Color, German Field Grey. And finally, Vallejo Model Wash Dark Brown. But in actual fact, any dark brown will do for this next step. What I'm going to do now is just put some brown wash down on one of these stones. I'm just going to pick out a couple at random. Let's go right here. And all I'm going to do is just carefully put my wash there on the top, nice and easy. There we go, flip it over, find the equivalent side on the other side of the wall. Pick that out and done. So I'm just going to go ahead finish that up, come back at you with the next color. Okay, here's the next step. We're going to now pick out some of those stones in the Dungeon Grey color, which is like a light grey color. Now, one little tip when you're picking out the stones with the light grey color, I'm going to focus the light grey color on the very large stones, these two very large stones here and here. And the reason I'm going to do that is because in the later steps I'm going to put some really nice blending and layering, and I want that to really show through on the light colored stones. So that's why I'm going to pick out those two stones. So let's get that done. And I will get that done on a bunch of the stones and come at you with the next color. Okay, so now we're going to put some Cayman green down on some of the stones at random. Cayman green is one of my favorite colors. It's absolutely fantastic. I can thoroughly recommend it, especially when you're painting any sort of terrain. So I like to concentrate, as I've already done here, the Cayman green on the sort of the lower stones. So I've painted that one in already, and I will paint a few more and come at you with the next step. Okay, the final color I'm going to be putting on some of the stones will be Vallejo model color German Field Grey. So as I've done, I'm just going to pick out some stones at random and then come back at you with the next step. Let's get to work. Okay, I'll go ahead and finish up. Just wanted to give a brief overview of where we are right now, because all the different color stones have been painted in. And I know what you're thinking, looks a bit cartoony, looks a bit crap, and yeah, you'd be right. But don't hit that dislike button just yet. Stay with me, because now the real magic is going to happen, because now using washes and dry brushes and overbrushing, we're going to start to blend it all in. So the next step will be to hit everything with an umber wash. Umber is like a reddy brown, and it gives a real sort of dirty, earthy colour to all the stonework. And it begins the process, as I said, of tying it all in. So let's get going. So I'm just going to put umber wash, rough and ready, over all the brickwork. That's it. I'm going to do this side. I'm going to do the other side, and I'll come back at you in a minute. The next step will be a very heavy dry brush, even an overbrush, of our stone wall. And this is really going to help tie in all the different colours together. So we're going to start with the original dark grey that we used on the stone wall, and we're going to mix that in 1-to-1 with Game Colour Cold Grey, and we're going to get progressively lighter as we continue with our dry brushing. One of the reasons that we're going to put a very heavy dry brush is that after we've done all the dry brushing, couple of steps, we're going to give it a real wash over the dry brush to mute down that dry brush effect, but still just to let it show through. Right, let's put a dry brush on. Nice and quick. I will finish this dry brush and come back to you with the next step. And the next dry brush will be 1-to-1 ratio of Game Colour Earth and the original two colours, Game Colour Cold Grey and Model Colour Dark Grey. And this is going to be a slightly lighter, earthier tone. Right, so let's put that dry brush on. And the next dry brush will be a 1-to-1 mixture of khaki and the dark grey and the cold grey. Right, let's put that dry brush on. And there we go. And the next dry brush will just be a dry brush of the earth colour. So let's put that dry brush on. Let's give it a lovely earthy tone as well. It'll simulate muddy colour, dirt. So I'll finish that step up and get back to you with the next step. And the very final dry brush at this stage will be just straight khaki. Right, so let's get that dry brush on. I'll finish this up and come back at you with the next step. Right, we're just going to need a few bits and pieces for the next step. You're going to need some acrylic flow release. If you haven't got that, water's fine, that will do. Some PVA glue and water mixed to 1-to-1 ratio. Same thing, just in a little tub. And some scatter and some clump foliage. And the final super secret ingredient. Yep, that is what it says on the label. Oregano. Yep, the stuff you use for cooking. And all you're going to do with that is just crush it up really, really finely. And you're going to scatter it over the base of the stone wall. And it makes a really realistic sort of like forest foliage, bits, pieces, all the little tiny little twigs, branches, little leaves that you'll see on the base. We're going to put some PVA glue down on the base now, like so. Put a little bit more actually. Just get an old brush for this. You don't want to use a nice brush for this. Like so. And all we are going to do now is put a little bit scatter down like so. That's it. Then a little bit of the crushed oregano mix. Like that. And as you can see already, it's starting to come to life. Carry on with the next bit. So, that's it, just literally just paint it on. That's all I'm going to do. It's going to give us a very realistic base. Right, so we'll put a bit of this on again. And all you're just trying to be is just literally nice and random. And then we'll get the oregano on like that. I'll just put it in a little bottle, makes it easier to shake out. Like so. Just need a little bit more there on the edge here. And when the PVA glue dries, it will dry transparent. Let's put a little bit more. Like so. Gently tap it off. Boom, done. And I'll just show you the other side for comparison. There we go. How much more realistic does that look? And the next step will be, we're going to put some little bushes here, just at random, and over the brick wall here. What we're also going to do is we're also going to put a bit of glue just in certain places on the top of the stone wall here, just to simulate sort of where the leaves, the dirt, the debris would just naturally get trapped in the little crevices of the terrain. You don't want to overdo it on the top, because then it just doesn't look realistic. Just a little bit, as you can see, in the gaps between the stones. Just literally where it would naturally capture itself. And there we go. We're just going to sprinkle it like this, as you can see. Just a little bit. Not too much. Just a little bit over the top. Come in with our oregano again. Give it a dusting. And then just shake it off. Boom, back down. Then if you've got a little bit too much in any area, just get an old brush. Give it a little brush off. Again, you can have so much fun with this. Just really enjoy it. There we go. Like that. Okay, next step, which is going to put some of the clump foliage on. And all I'm going to do is just pick out places at random to put our clump foliage. There we go. Next step, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a little bit of flow release on the bush. Like so. And the reason I do that is because the next step will be to add some PVA glue, and the glue will flow through the bush much easier if that bush is wet. So if you haven't got flow release, just use water, wet the bush, and as you can see, as soon as I put a little drop of glue on our bush, it just flows straight through it. It gets everywhere in the glue. So I'm just going to take a little toothpick. Now at this stage you have to be a little bit careful because it is a little bit wet and it damp. It's like paper mache at this stage. And just push it against the wall or wherever you want your bush. And again, when that dries, when the little bush dries, it will dry rock hard. Literally, it will dry solid. So there we go. Put one there. Let's put some more on. And just, you can have so much fun. Just put them wherever you want to. Model it. Does it look nice there? Nah, I don't like it there. Do I like that? Yep, that looks a bit better. So again, come in with our flow release. Couple of drops, that's it. PVA glue. There we go. And I'm just gonna push it in there like so. Lovely. Right, the next thing I'm doing is I'm going to just build a little bush over the stone wall here. So I'm just picking up our foliage just Something along those sort of lines like that. That's how I want it. Yep, that's good. And on top of that, I'm just going to put a little bit of flock to blend it all in. And the other side. Just got to be really careful on this stage because the bushes are very delicate until they dry. That looks good. What you want to avoid doing with the bushes is touching them with your fingers when you put the glue on, because it will stick to your fingers and just come right off. Let's put a little bit of scatter there. There. And done. Right, as I said, we have to work quickly because while those bushes are still wet, all we're going to do now is take some Athonian Camoshade on an old brush, quite a lot on the brush, load the brush up, and I'm just literally just going to drop it on the bush like that. May not be able to see it on camera, maybe when the bush is done actually. You're going to see how it's just going to tone the colour right down. Oh yeah, you can, compared to the one bush on the right. So this step is much easier to do when the bush is wet as opposed to when it's dry. That's why you want to work quickly. And that's it. And I'll go ahead and do all the other bushes. What we're going to do now is we're just going to put some Athonian Camoshade down on the base and the bricks, just to blend everything into it together. Let's get that done. Right, so I'm just going to put it down here. So there we go, just like that. And we're going to start to put it on the bricks now. All over. Bricks. There we go. Okay, I'll get on with that and come back at you with the next step. Right, what we're going to do now is we're going to take some of our umber wash and we're going to put that over the base as well, and we're going to put it right on the very bottom of the brickwork, and that's going to simulate mud, dirt, and I only really want that, as I said, right at the bottom of the bricks. So let's go ahead and do that. That's it. Go, and also I'm just going to put it right at the very bottom let's get that off. Of the bricks right there. So, a little bit on the bush there as well. And there we go, done. What we're going to do now is, and you may not be able to see this that well on the camera, is that in between the individual stones, there is no shading, and that means that the stones look very flat. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a black wash all along in the recesses of all the stones. So as well as giving us shade, what that is also going to do, in between the various different coloured stones, let's say here and here, there is no blending in those recesses, so it's a very harsh contrast between the different colours. So that black will also give us blending in the recesses. So let's go ahead and get that done. Now the black wash I'm going to be using is going to be Vallejo Model Wash Black. Any black wash will do. So let's put some wash on, and what you want to do is you really want to get the wash into the recesses but not on the stones. So I'm just going to be careful, put it in just into the recesses in between the stones, and it's actually easier than it sounds because basically because it is a wash, it just wants to flow in the recesses. I don't know, you might not be able to see that on camera, or you might. You can see just by putting the wash in the recesses, you can see the extra definition we've got over here, as opposed to, let's say, on this side of the stone wall. Now, the only thing is, you may need to repeat this step 2 times, maybe even 3 times, because the black wash will dry lighter than it looks now on camera. So I'm going to go ahead and finish that up. There we go. That's all I'm doing. Just put in the wash. In those recesses. So I'll finish up and be back at you later. Use 3 washes. We're going to use dark brown wash, umber wash, and some Athonian Camoshade. And what we're going to do is, I'm going to mainly apply this effect to the lighter colour stones here and here. I mean, you can apply this effect to as many stones as you wish. It really is up to you, but it has more of an effect on the lighter colour stones. So at the bottom of the stone here, I'm going to put the dark brown wash, and that's going to really help to blend it in with our sort of grassy muddy base. Above the dark brown wash, I'm going to put an umber wash here, sort of the middle-ish of the stone. And at the top of the stone, I'm going to put the Athonian Camoshade sort of there. So we're just going to be doing some nice layers with some washes. Let's get it done. So I've got some dark brown wash. All I'm going to do is just put it at the base of the stone. You can kind of see the immediate effect that's had already. Let's see if we can zoom in and get that to go. More. Then whilst the dark brown wash is still wet, I'm going to get some of the umber wash. Just going to put it, just blend it out like so from the brown wash. Like so. And finally, I'm going to get some Athonian Camoshade. It's going to go right at the top of the stone. So let's put a little bit more Athonian Camoshade on. Just blending it all in. In fact, doing a bit of wet blending here on the actual wall. You might not be able to see that full effect on the camera, but I'm gonna do this stone as well, and I'll do this, repeat the same process on the stones a couple of times, and I'll be back at you. Last two steps. All we're now going to do is take a nice deep dark red. I'm going to use Vallejo model color flat red. What I'm going to do is, on the model, I'm going to add tiny little dots of red on the green bushes. It's just going to simulate like little berries, little fruits on the bushes. Red is also the complementary color of green, so it's going to really make the model just pop. A little bit of color in there. So let's get that done. Let's get nice and close for you. There we go. So all I'm doing is just putting little dots of red on the bushes. What we're going to do now is we're going to do a very light dry brush of Liquitex Basics Neutral Grey. Any medium light grey will do. And a very final dry brush of Citadel Tyrant Skull. There we go. Let's get that done. So I'm just going to do a very light dry brush, very light. Just to pick out any last final details. And I will get the other side done and come back at you with the Tyrant Skull. And now for the Tyrant Skull. Very light dry brush. A little bit too much there. Okay, there we go. I will do the other side. I'm just going to put one or two little static grass tufts on the base, just to add another piece of like little visual interest for the model there. Let's have a look on the other side. Yeah, put one or two there as well. There, or there, I think. Yeah, there we go. One more. There, let's have a look. Yeah, that looks nice. Just push it down into place. And the only last step will be to paint the rims black, and we are done. And the absolute last step will be to use some black paint. I'm going to use some black primer here. Any black will do. And I'm just going to paint the rims of the bases here black. And you can paint your rim bases any colour that you wish, as long as it's black. I'm just going to apply some paint. Like so. And I will just quickly do that on all the rims, and I'll come back at you with the final roundup. And there we go. The rims have been painted black and the model is complete. So as you can see, with a little bit more work and effort, not much more, you can just make your stone walls look so much more interesting. So because of all the different layers that we've put on, all the different techniques we've used, all the little extra bits and pieces, like the bushes, the little terrain, the little scatter, it just makes it look so much more visually interesting. So if you like the video, please be sure to like and subscribe below. If you have any questions about any of the steps that I've done, please leave a comment and I will do my best to get back to you. I'll take some nice still pictures as well and put them up as well. This is Super Sharp Shooter.